and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before. Thank you very much for coming back, and welcome to those of you who haven't been here before but have come over to find out what's going on and what it's all about. My name is Colette. I'm an intuitive tarot reader with over 30 years experience, but the reading that I'm going to be doing today is my intuitive own interpretation of what is taking place today with the astrology for this new moon that is taking place in Scorpio at this time. So I will start the reading with this card here, which is the Scorpio new moon itself, and it's saying work through your fears, which is really a very new moon in Scorpio energy and does come up quite strongly actually in the reading that I'm going to read for you. For those of you who haven't been here before, what I do is I write down my notes. I kind of intuitively pick up on the energies and write notes, and then I put them onto my laptop and then I read from my laptop. But I also actually have done this on a blog, so the blog is there, which I will attach to the video after I actually upload the blog itself. So the new moon energy itself is also saying that a new start is coming. As with all new moons, there is a new beginning coming after the new moon, which actually happened earlier today as well, but I will get into that as I do the actual reading. So I'm calling this reading today the new Super Moon in Scorpio Karmic Cleansing. So as with all the new moons, the divine masculine sun energy comes together with the divine feminine moon energy to form a new moon. And today this has taken place at 23 degrees and 17 minutes at 0507 hours UK time this morning. And it's taken place in the 8th house energy. You may want to check out your own natal chart, and there will be a free natal link in the description box down below for those of you who are interested in doing that and finding out, checking out for yourself on a more personal level. And so if you have any points or planets at the 18 to 28 degree mark of Scorpio, you will be feeling this energy the strongest. And the new moon energy also lasts for the 2 weeks up to the full moon, and it can also last beyond that as well, up to the actual next new moon itself, depending on the energies that are involved with the new moon or the full moon as well. So as this is another fixed sign the moon is in, the last one was in Taurus, it's once again going to be having its biggest effect on the fellow fixed signs as well. So that's going to be Taurus, Leo and Aquarius, just like it did during the full moon in Taurus. So when the moon was full last time in Taurus, the fixed signs were the ones that were feeling it the most and benefiting from it the most as well, because Taurus is a fixed moon and so is the Scorpio moon. So Scorpios will also be feeling it the most, but also benefiting from it the most. So 18 to 28 degree mark of any of the fixed signs. So this new moon heralds a major turning point of the year 2020, with the 3 supportive sextiles to the trio in Capricorn and the easygoing trine to Neptune. It is nowhere near as challenging or heavy as all the previous energy of the moons so far to date. It does feel like the return of the light to the darkness after everything we have been through this year. The new moon itself is the culmination point of the waning moon, when the energy of the moon is becoming less and less visible in the sky. After the full moon has peaked, as the moon moves ever closer to the sun and the sign he himself is in. The new moon is therefore a time of reflection and feeling our emotions on a deeper, more personal, inward looking rather than outward focus. In Scorpio and 8th house energy, we are working with our subconscious, intuitive, instinctual feeling level of knowing something on a completely intangible awareness within our psyche. So basically what that's meaning is that we feel it. We may not be able to verbalize it. We may not know why we're feeling what we're feeling, but we feel it very, very strongly, very, very deeply. Scorpio is also connected with our sexuality and rules over the genitals and reproductive systems, which is also why it is well known as the energy of birth, death and rebirth, or transformation. It is also said when a Scorpio dies in a family, someone will be born within that family. And if a Scorpio is born within a family, someone will die. Not immediately, but usually within a couple of years or so. Apparently, it has to do with the keeping karmic balance within the family dynamic. Scorpio is governed by the planet Pluto, who may well have been dethroned inside the astronomical circles. However, within the astrology circles, it is well known he still holds his position of power as Lord of the underworld and all things under the earth herself, as well as things that are hidden and yet to be brought up into the light. Power is something Scorpios are very protective of and do not take it lightly when they lose their grip on it or someone else takes it from them. And power is often something that is created in the dark. Shady backroom deals, blackmail, secret meetings by secret societies are all very Scorpionic characteristics. Scorpios also have a reputation of seeking revenge, which hasn't been given without good reason. They will wait sometimes years to exact it with a sting from their tail that will completely destroy their opponent. This is the lower and much more base energy of a Scorpio. Scorpios, as I have explained in my previous full moon in Taurus write-up, has 3 energy levels of consciousness: the eagle and the phoenix, each representing the deeper levels of our own awakening and awareness. Death is the scorpion. It can bring death swiftly and smoothly with a flick of its tail. Poison is something else Pluto rules over. Birth is the eagle, as we learn to soar above our emotional issues and attachments, seeing the bigger picture, and for some even learning to recognize the energetic patterning involved through previous incarnations and the lessons being learnt in this one. Rebirth is the phoenix, when we can allow ourselves to let go of whatever it is that is keeping us in a fixed way of viewing our world. This is the stage that allows us to release our emotional baggage that we have been accumulating over many experiences and many lifetimes. When the moon is new in Scorpio, we have the ability to transform into the phoenix and release the hidden fears that arise to the surface, and especially during the time of the sun traversing through the sign of Scorpio. Both the sun and the moon at 23 degrees and 17 are in sextiles with the trio in Capricorn. Jupiter is at 23 degrees 15 minutes, is almost exact bar 2 minutes, which means it might as well be, for all the difference this will make. Jupiter is the planet of joy, optimism, expansion, magnification, and the bringer of gifts and promises. I personally see Jupiter like a giant bright light in the sky, a planet of promise and hope of better things to come, like a portent saying the worst is over, and the healing process can begin to take place, slowly but surely. The light can return to the darkness, which is weird, as we head toward the darker winter days, while our sun-filled days have been full of much darkness. The Sun and Moon are also in that same aspect, with Saturn at 27 degrees 06 minutes. Although this connection is not as strong at this time during the new moon, but will become so with the moon herself as she moves forwards during the day. This will be an exact but brief connection as the moon moves quickly. But again, this will feel like a release of something we have been emotionally working on and with for some time now. Whatever we may have been resisting, we are now going to feel like something has shifted and lifted in our personal lives on a deep and transformational level. The last sextile taking place here with this trio is with Pluto at 22 degrees 54 or 23 degrees. Again, another strong energy. The ruler of Scorpio is definitely bringing something long-term to close here, an ending. And finality is taking place of a generational nature. We are starting to reach the end of this chapter on a collective level. Anyone with planets or points between 18 degrees of Capricorn up to 02 degrees Aquarius are going to experience the benefit of this sextile the most, as well as those with anything in the same degrees of Aries, Cancer and Libra. All the cardinal signs. You can also add the early degrees of the fixed signs as previously mentioned. The trine energy across to Neptune, 18 degrees and 12 minutes, still retrograde in Pisces, is another indication that things are slowly changing. Scorpio and Pisces are both water signs, so they have a deep empathy with each other. In Pisces, Neptune is in its own home sign. The Sun and Moon are adding to and helping to create an energy of the mysterious and unknown that is going to start being seen, like the veil is about to be lifted, and we will soon see what has been going on another dimension behind the cosmic curtain. The most interesting aspect, however, for me here is the one that is no longer happening. That of Jupiter and Neptune sextile, which ran from late January onward. Interestingly, this connection has also met up 3 times over the course of the year, just as the Pluto and Jupiter conjunction is also about to do the same for the 3rd and last time. Actually, that's already happened. Both of these connections have been ongoing energies, and exact meetings have only been able to occur in 2020 due to them all going retrograde around the same time. The Jupiter sextile Neptune has been an ongoing factor behind the health issue we have all had to deal and cope with throughout this year. Neptune is the planet of the unknown, which causes the confusion of not really knowing what is going on in our lives, nor what is going to occur next, as there is no knowns and no certainties. It does, though, make for a time of great creativity, particularly for artists, writers and musicians. The latter literally being taken from the Greek word for muse, the goddesses who brought inspiration, poetry, dance and music to all those who could hear them. And I will just say very quickly that most people, or a lot of astrologers, put the virus, if you like, down to down to Pluto. They liken it to being ruled by Pluto. I personally see it ruled more as a Neptunian thing, because it's kind of something that has no boundaries. A virus, you can't see it, you need a microscope to be able to identify it. So I see it more as a kind of how can I put it? It's almost like has a dream-like quality in a way. It's like, does it exist? Does it not exist at this time? Although I would say that Pluto has played a large part in this as well. But Pluto, I think, kind of governs more things like poisons, like nuclear energy and things like that. I think that Neptune governs things like plagues, which is why I think that the Neptune and Jupiter energy that we have been living through over this past year since January has played a massive role in what has happened to the collective, because Jupiter and Neptune are both outer planets, bigger planets. They have an effect on us generationally, so they affect everybody collectively in the same kind of way rather than on a more individual, personal basis over a longer period of time. So during 2020 it has felt like we have been sailing on an ocean of uncertainty with no real sense of direction, in uncharted waters, in an incredibly thick fog, in that vast open space of nothingness. We have been trying to understand the how and why, but Neptune is not logical energy. Neptune is asking us to surrender and trust to our inner knowing and what feels right for each of us when we remove the need for logic and replace it with trusting our soul and its greater evolutionary journey. After a while though, our brain starts to butt in, as it will not be able to cope with the void and emptiness of not knowing. At this point, confusion reigns as we will grasp at any straw, no matter how unlikely that may seem to be. Add to this unknown quantity the magnification of Jupiter, and we get what we have all been experiencing, running in the background of our lives, a sense of falling off the edge of the world into the wide unknown with no idea as to where we will land. Neptune is really nebulous energy. It's really kind of like energy that you can't kind of grasp. It's very creative, as I was saying, but at the same time it can also be very delusional as well, very confusing. We don't know if something that we think is true because it's not got any certainty about it, which is why when we go into that energy of Neptune, we can become very lost, and we can become very disorientated, and also we can tend then to want to grasp at anything that's going to make sense to us, and then because we don't know if that's true or not, we will also end up with more confusion, which is how we have experienced the last 9 months or so, I would say. So fortunately for us, this weird and wacky energy, which also at times included both Saturn and Pluto, has now ended. The last exact connection being on the 12th of October, the connection of the planet of mystery and mysticism and the giant gas planet of exaggeration, however, didn't stop until the 9th of November. So we're still kind of pulling out of and away from that energy as the two planets move further apart from each other. That energy is dissipating more, but it's kind of lingering. It's not something that just disappears immediately. It will always have like a lingering effect, but it won't be as full on and as obvious. So 3 days later, after the 9th of November, when this exact conjunction energy with Jupiter and sextiling Neptune ended, we had the last connection with Pluto and Jupiter. And this happened on the 12th of November at precisely 19:38 hours UK time, for those who like to know these things. And so Pluto and Jupiter met up for the third and final time in 2020 at 22 degrees and 51 minutes, so more or less 23 degrees. And this meeting was the culmination of a 13-year cycle that will be starting anew at the same time as it is ending. Usually the largest and most beneficent planets will only meet up with the smallest and most maleficent planet once exactly during the same year. To do otherwise is a rare occurrence, although sometimes they can meet twice in the same year. But in 2020, the year of challenges, and due to them both going retrograde together, this has been an even more rarer event than usual. Which is why this energy has been so full on, because really Pluto and Jupiter have not really separated this whole time. The conjunction has been there behind the scenes. The energy behind the scenes, as I like to call it, behind that curtain, has been ongoing, and they have been coming back together and then separating and then coming back together and separating again due to the fact that they have been retrograde as well. So 3 experiences of that same energy is extreme in 1 year, to say the least. When Jupiter and Pluto meet up in Capricorn, or met up in Capricorn should I say, it was almost exact to where Saturn and Pluto conjunction took place. Going back once more to my favourite subject this year, the Pluto and Saturn conjunction that kicked off all this craziness for the world during 2020, our attention needs to be drawn to what became known as the China virus. The reason I want to focus on China in particular is because it was one of the main countries in the path of what I ended up terming the Pluton conjunction. Basically, it was just something that came out of my mouth one time when I was talking about it and just kind of stuck as being very appropriate for the energy. So I've renamed it Pluton. In Capricorn, it is a rare and more powerful occurrence. An event that last time took place in 1518, and before then we need to go back to 1284 CE. So as you can see, it doesn't happen in Capricorn a lot. It's a very, very rare occurrence for this Saturn and Pluto conjunction to take place. But the lineup for this latest conjunction at the beginning of this year involved more than just these 2 planets. So to begin with, if we check out the lineup, we find Mercury at 23 degrees, 05 minutes, which is more or less where this has just taken place again. Pluto at 22 degrees, 46 minutes, Saturn also 22 degrees, 46 minutes, and the Sun at 21 degrees 51 or 22 degrees. This stellium itself is a pretty impressive setup and is one that we need to go back to the 1200s in order to find its occurrence previously. You can also add to this the fact that Jupiter was in Capricorn at that time, along with the South Node, karmically implying that energy we were needing to release. This was a massive life-changing event on so many levels, which we are still living through today, and we are still going to feel its effects reverberating out into the next decade as well. It's not just kind of an energy that stops. It's so big that we are still going to see the results of it, shall we say, because as of yet we're still in it. We haven't come out of it, so we're still kind of living through the effects of it, and it won't be until further down in the next decade that we'll be able to look back and see the changes that have occurred because of this massive conjunction. So if we go a little further back to the 1st of October 2019, we find some very interesting aspects for what I like to term the setup for what was to follow in 2020. The most important of these being the Black Moon Lilith and Neptune retrograde in Pisces conjunction. Neptune is the realm of the unseen and the unknown, and it was connecting with the dark, taboo, subconscious world of Black Moon Lilith, who's known as the demoness energy that can also be depicted as the Black Widow spider who eats its mate and devours its young if they show sign of weakness by falling from her back while she carries them. Not exactly the most compassionate or caring mother. And Black Moon Lilith energy is supposed to be the same kind of energy. It said, you know, that Black Moon Lilith devours her children, gives birth to hundreds of children at a time and eats them. It's the energy of the very kind of negative and dark female aspects. She can also be seen as the wild, untamed nature of feminine psyche, which relates to Mother Nature herself. For me, she also represents that dark and hidden realm of our emotional blind spot in regards to what we refuse to acknowledge within the deeper, forbidden and energetic frequency of the collective consciousness. So for me, basically, she's like a representation of all of the things that we collectively refuse to look at, refuse to acknowledge, that has gone on for centuries on a collective generational scale and is still happening today. The darkness, the things that shouldn't be allowed to still be going on, but they are, because though people have the power, have the authority to kind of ignore it. So she is the evil witch, Maleficent in the story as Sleeping Beauty, and the white witch from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, who made everything winter, icy and cold. Both of these characters have one thing in common: they lack compassion. At the same time as these two meet up, Jupiter was squaring the pair from 18 degrees 10 minutes in Libra. So we're talking about Neptune and Black Moon Lilith here. When they met up at the same time as that was happening, Jupiter, expanding energy, was squaring the pair from 18 degrees 10 in Libra, and Libra is all about fairness and equality through justice. And that energy was being magnified and expanded on, while at the same time challenging the energy of illusion, confusion and fantasy, Neptune, as well as our inner emotional darkness and our shadow side, Black Moon Lilith. It was as if Jupiter was telling us we must take a look at what we refuse to acknowledge, especially as Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries, which is all about our courage, our drive and our individuality, was opposing both the Sun, attention, spotlight, ego energy, also in Libra, Mars, who for me is about bringing something back to life, meanwhile was at the tail end of fussy perfectionist and analytical Virgo, who knows the devil's in the details. So we had Mars in analytical Virgo, which is saying, like, you know, you really have to look at the ins and outs of this. You know, this is something that has so much, it's not like glossing over the surface. You can't just, you've got to really go down into the depths of it. And over 2020, there has been so much information put out there, so much that has not necessarily been accurate information, should we say. And the information that has been accurate has also been not allowed to come to the surface. And so for me, that whole setup there screams dark night of the soul, as the moon, emotions and feelings, our deeper subconscious, had just come out of her new moon phase 3 days earlier, during which time she was also opposing Chiron, and that was during the Libra new moon last year. And by the 1st of October, she had moved into Scorpio, hidden secrets and transformations, and was opposing Uranus, sudden and unexpected change in the future. Retrograde in Taurus, which is all about our finances and values, personal environment, businesses, how we earn our living, that kind of thing, our values, our personal, all of this has been affected, all of it, businesses, our personal environment, our homes. And so it was just beginning to trine across to the Neptune Black Moon Lilith conjunction. So that was the moon. The moon was also starting to, as she came out of her new moon energy phase and moved into Scorpio, she was just beginning to form a connection with the energy that is Neptune and Black Moon Lilith. So for me, that also not only screams dark night of the soul, but it also screams literally infection, plague, darkness, lack of clarity, confusion, all that kind of thing. And especially with Mars in Virgo as well, Virgo being very much about, like I was saying, the details and analysing things and trying to get to the bottom of something, but not necessarily being able to. Being kind of caught up with too much detail as well can be another trait of Virgo energy, especially with Mars being fiery and kind of overzealous, over passionate about things. So by the end of November, the US intelligence officials were already aware that something seriously contagious had broken out in Wuhan, China. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction was already starting to come together at that time in November. It was already beginning to come together because they're both so slow-moving planets. They didn't actually meet up until January. And Neptune had turned direct and was moving back over the same space for the third time, reactivating where it had connected with the Black Moon Lilith energy in early October. So it kind of brought it all back up again, like some kind of festering boil that was bursting in some way. Because Black Moon Lilith can also be seen as that kind of festering energy as well. Interestingly, Neptune is still activating that same spot in Pisces, keeping that dark night of the soul energy very much alive here. So Neptune is yet to move beyond that energy point as well. She has not, because she is so slow moving, she's only moved about 2.5 degrees since she's been in retrograde, and that was last year. And so she has kind of gone over the same point again. Just let me check where she was. She was retrograde at 16 degrees, and now she is at, where are we? Now she is at, where's Neptune? Now she's at 18 degrees. As we speak now, she's at 18 degrees. So she's literally only moved 2 degrees. She's still retrograde, and so that energy, she has not moved away from that energy yet. And of course, when she stations direct and will begin to move forward, she will slowly move away from that activated point of Neptune and Black Moon Lilith energy. But right now, she is still very much in it. We are still very much in it because of that. And for anybody interested, as I was saying, this is going to be in blog form as well, which I will attach to the video at some point. There are images on here as well as the actual charts that you can go and look at if you're more interested in finding out about what was happening at that time. So by now you may be asking, what has this got to do with China? And my reply is that China itself is like a virus, spreading itself throughout all the governmental systems. It is, to my mind, a dictatorship that completely lacks any compassion for the people it rules over in a tyrannical, despotic dictatorship. It has no time for the spiritual or religious thinking, as it has proven by its treatment of Tibet, and those who practice any form of spiritual preference, using them literally for live organ donors or as prisoners in work encampments, or even both. This, however, was not always the case, as China once had a prestigious and illustrious history of ancient wisdom and knowledge which they had developed over many dynasties. They were also once known as the Celestials, and would speak of how their ancestors had come from the stars, and still do to this day, include those known as the Red Dragon family. Today, China is ruled over by a different dynasty, or dynasty, since 1949, known as the Chinese Communist Party, whose roots go back to 1921, where they were founded as an offshoot of the Bolshevik revolutions in Russia and the Karl Marx movement, funded by the Rothschilds, Warburgs, and Schiff banking families, who took out the whole royal family of the Russian Tsars in 1917. This whole system of political revolution was transferred to China, and by the end of the Second World War, of which the Chinese Communist Party played a major role, the Red Army had transformed to the People's Liberation Army, something which they have been anything but. So coming back again to the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, which is at the same degree mark as the Pluton conjunction, so it's like that area again in the sky is still being activated. It's still that same energy, that kind of spot in the Capricorn energy, which is all about, Capricorn's all about establishments. It's all about corporations and governance and structure, systems, that kind of thing. And because the conjunction with Jupiter and Pluto was literally only 5 minutes apart from being exact as to where the Pluto-Saturn conjunction took place. And when that took place, it was China and other parts of Asia that were very, very much in that path of that conjunction, that were being hit the most by it on this planet. And that's why, for me, I think that it is going to have the biggest effect on that part of the world. And we are already seeing that kind of taking place, which I did talk about in my previous, like the Pluto conjunction video, which I put out quite recently as well. So, as the tyranny and corruption and all the dictatorship of control is being brought out of the shadows and into the light more and more over this year than has ever been seen before. There are more countries calling out China and its behaviour and the way that it treats the people in its country than has ever been spoken of before. So Jupiter, the bigger and more positive planet, will win out. And it spells out in particular the end of some tyrannical structure somewhere on the planet. And it is my personal opinion that this communist Marxist playbook is what they are trying to install around the globe under the guise of this health issue that we are told is so virulent that now we are not allowed to spend our festive celebrations of any kind with those we love and care about. Family, relations, friends, lovers are all persona non grata. It is also why I personally believe that what has taken place in the US since the 3rd of November is a vital part of this scenario. Why? When Mercury, communication, which for me also translates as votes, people trying to communicate how they were feeling, stationed direct in Libra, which is all about justice and fairness, and was squaring everything in Capricorn. So Mercury stopped on the day previous to the election in America, but at the same time it was standing still on the day that it actually happened. No movement from Mercury at all. And at the time it was standing still, it was squaring everything in Capricorn, which is the establishment energy, governance. So Libra, of course, is about justice and fairness. And at the same time, it was opposing Black Moon Lilith, which is darkness, the forbidden fruit and taboos, which was in Taurus, which is known as the Garden of Delights, which in this case kind of represents the America energy itself, the actual country itself. While the trio in Capricorn was still sextile to Neptune, as the Sun from Scorpio, secrets, hidden and scandals, also trined Neptune in Pisces, which is about chaos and confusion. So cheating and fraud ensued, the result of which is the Supreme Court, Libra, Mercury, and the Constitution, Capricorn, because Capricorn also governs law, the actual written word, are going to see the real truth emerge. So that whole kind of combination of all these different aspects was absolutely ripe for what happened, for all this madness that we are seeing now. So Pluto and Jupiter are about to bring an end to a tyrannical regime on our planet. One, I believe, the dark underbelly, Black Moon Lilith, and kind of Pluto energy as well, of the US has been connected with since World War II took place, out of which has grown the military-industrial complex. In its wisdom, the universe has brought Jupiter and Pluto together 3 times for a very good reason. And these conjunctions effects will continue to go on up until the end of 2020, with far-reaching and knock-on reverberations of retribution across the tyrannical systems that have overstepped the mark of the inalienable rights of the people. We will begin to see more of this as Mars has woken up from his deep slumber and stationed direct on the 14th of November at midnight UK time. He will begin moving forward on the day after the new moon in Scorpio, which is tomorrow. At this time, however, Mars has no aspects and is playing no part. I'm now seeing this as us sitting in a cart on top of one of those huge roller coaster rides, and we have been slowly moving upwards to this point and have stopped still, teetering on the edge, waiting for something to happen. Now it's all about to change rapidly. So buckle up, folks, because life is about to get like a super fast, exhilarating, no going backwards plunge into the future. From now until 2021, everything is on warp speed drive. So returning once again to this new moon energy, we have Mercury at 05 degrees and 6 minutes back in Scorpio, and once again opposing Uranus at 8 degrees and 5 minutes. Uranus is still retrograde in Taurus, and also Black Moon Lilith at 02 degrees 46 minutes in Taurus are conjunct each other. So we experienced this aspect back in late September. Mercury at 03 degrees in Scorpio was opposing both Uranus retrograde at 10 degrees in Taurus, and Black Moon Lilith at that time was at 27 degrees 41 in Aries. The opposition with Uranus was in play during the full moon in Aries on the 1st of October. Mercury is now going forward and reactivating that same energy, which is yet to be cleared and released. Mercury is the detective, and in Scorpio it dives down into the deepest hidden underworld of the subconscious, to the places we don't want to go or acknowledge, even to ourselves. Mercury is also our base or small mundane thinking mind. It is limited by our previous conditioning. The Uranian mind is vast and unlimited. It is a creative electricity that brings forth the as of yet unknown, unrealised, unexperienced. Here in this opposition with Uranus, who is also conjunct Black Moon Lilith, we are dealing with our shadow nature, the parts of ourselves that we do not like and do our best not to reveal to others. Our deepest, darkest fears about who we truly think we are or could become if we give in to our darker nature. The temptations of the physical, sensual, sexual, lustful, pleasurable realm. Taurus is the toddler, the age when we are learning about our physical world and being taught right from wrong, what we are allowed to experience and what we are forbidden from knowing at such a young age. Of course, all this depends on those doing the teaching as to what we are protected from and what we may be psychologically opened up to, which then has the potential to lie buried in the deep subconscious for many years, or even throughout lifetimes as undealt with trauma. Fortunately, the Uranian higher conscious mind is there to tell us that we are part of the whole, the interconnectedness of life's creative source energy, and so much more than the sum of our parts or our previous experiences and conditioning. It is our Mercury lower learning mind that will look out the window and see the grey storm clouds rolling in around us and immediately turn to doom and gloom thoughts. And it is our Uranian mind that will remind us of the fact the sun is still shining above and the blue skies, which are still there, will appear once again. It is our thoughts, Mercury, that control our feelings and emotions, which can drag us down into the darkness of despair. If we let our mind control our emotions, we can end up in a deep underground dungeon, believing we have no way out. Uranus is the light that guides us out of that darkness, the sudden unexpected turn of events, the liberator who comes to break the chains of our bondage and clears the path for enlightenment and transformation to occur, allowing us to shed an old outmoded metaphorical skin that we have kept ourselves trapped inside for fear of all kinds of reasons, both personally and collectively. Uranus, the higher vibrationary energy here, is saying, listen to our higher selves, connect with our higher selves, and when we feel the fear arise, communicate with it from a higher perspective of trusting what needs to be released, and let go. That the fear we are feeling emotionally is helping us to grow beyond our limiting understanding. And like the caterpillar, we too must surrender to the alchemical awakening process from within. So lastly, we have Venus at 22 degrees and 10 minutes in Libra, the 7th house energy here. Venus is looking for fairness, balance, compromise, justice and diplomacy on what her values are in our one-to-one relationships. Which all sounds great until we see she is in a square and challenging energy with the trio in Capricorn, 23 degrees to 27 degrees collectively. Not the best time to be resolving any ongoing personal relationship issues. Best to sit it out for a while, unless you're wanting to see how your partner will react to certain deep-held values that you're not willing to compromise or budge on. These could be some deal-breaking moments in our relationship scenarios. Venus is also trining across to the North Node at 21 degrees 20 minutes in Gemini, which is helping us to make sure we have all the facts and figures right before we jump in with both feet in our mouths and into a future of picking up pieces we didn't need to shatter. If we just waited patiently a little longer for the energy to shift away from the argumentative and silver-tongued slicing that could occur if we're not careful and harmonious with ourselves at this time. So basically we need to wait until Venus has gone past that point of the 27 degree mark really and moved into the sign of Scorpio would be a much better time to actually deal with any of those emotional issues, and to, or at least wait until the end of the Libra sign, so that Venus is much closer to the Scorpio energy itself. Because as it's squaring all that energy in Capricorn, it's not going to be feeling, or Venus is not going to be feeling particularly diplomatic or like compromising or wanting to resolve issues in a fair and balanced way, shall we say. And there could also be some kind of power play there as well. So the Sabian symbol for the 23 degree point of Scorpio is, and again it always amazes me at how accurate these degree points are, and it's a rabbit metamorphosed to a fairy or nature spirit. And it says this symbol shows ascension or evolution to higher states of being, which for me is that Uranian energy. You may find yourself having a transformative realization that will take your focus away from the baser animal instincts, Mercury, to a more evolved, higher spiritual perception. This can lead to having higher codes of living, operating on elevated planes of being. Coming to terms with one's vital energies can free you up to find a higher state of being. Again, it's that kind of transformational energy of the Scorpio new moon. Letting go of the old, allowing the new to come in. This can feel like a metamorphosis, like you're morphing into someone different. As I was saying, the caterpillar scenario. And actually, I will, for those of you who haven't heard this before, because I do like to add images to my write-ups, and so from where I was talking about the alchemical awakening process within, like the caterpillar, I chose the quote from Lao Tzu, and the quote is, "What the caterpillar calls the end, the rest of the world calls a butterfly," which is very scorpionic energy. It's that transformative rebirthing, letting go, turning into something new process that this is all about at this time. So coming back to this Sabian symbol, like you're morphing into someone different, perhaps someone quite unique from others. Again, very Uranian. Ascension in consciousness is likely to be happening. Enjoy the ride. Revelation of hidden talents, moving into a whole new level of existence and being. Vegetarianism, elementals, nature spirits and fairies, evolution, complete changes. So the caution here is being dissatisfied with one's transformation, feeling ineffective or impotent, one's sexual power taken away, feeling neutered or neglecting the body. And I will just add as well that there is another expression which is very similar to the Lao Tzu one, and that's the one by Richard Bach, which I think probably Richard Bach took his one from this one. I've not seen this one before actually, but Richard Bach's one is what the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls the butterfly. And I did almost use that, but then I decided that this was probably the original, and I like to kind of stick with the original expression. It's kind of, again, it kind of goes with the ancient Chinese thing as well. Lao Tzu being a very ancient, wise Chinese master himself. So that is where I'm going to leave the actual astrology part of this reading, but I did pull 3 cards from the I can't remember what they're called now, just let me quickly check again. They are called the Reflections cards, and it's channeled wisdom from the works of Julie Soskin. And the 3 cards I got are You Are Free, You Are Light, You Are Love, which I thought was very appropriate. The second one was Fear has always been your greatest enemy, and yet fear has helped you because through your fears you have journeyed far. Again, very appropriate. And lastly, we got Be strong, much is happening around you. And I do believe that that is very true as well. So that is where I'm going to leave the reading today, and say thank you very much to those of you who have come across to listen to me and to give me your time. If you have managed to get through to the end of this, thank you very much for staying and being here. And if you have, please could you thumbs up my video for me, because it really does help me. With the more likes I get, the more recommendations I can get, the more it can get put out into the bigger YouTube world, the more I can get people come back and subscribe to my channel. Thank you to those of you who have liked and subscribed to my channel. Again, I do really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please could you do it. There is a button on the video itself that you can just press, and it will open up this bell thing, as you're probably well aware by now, and you can decide whether you want to get the notifications there or not, so that you'll know when I'm putting out my videos. I do all the new moon astrology and tarot reads, and also the full moon as well, all the zodiac signs, all the major shifts of energy like the Jupiter Pluto conjunction that we've just had as well. I did a video for that one, which is on the playlist. I think it's on the playlist underneath the Jupiter galactic conjunct the galactic center. I think I put it underneath, but anyway, it went under conjunction. I'm probably going to rearrange those actually at some point and make it easier for people to find. But all the zodiac signs are also on playlists as well, so whichever sun sign or moon sign or rising sign you are, you can go and check them out as well if you so desire. Please also leave a comment. I will, like I said, be leaving my blog for this, so that you can go and have a look at the actual write-up and the pictures and the charts themselves as well if you're interested. And also follow me on my blog. My blog is known as Time Is Here Now. That's where you'll find my write-ups, and I would really love you to follow them as well as subscribing to my channel. That would be really helpful for me as well. So with all of that being said, I'm going to say thank you very much again, and please take really good care of yourselves. Enjoy the full moon, sorry, the new moon energy, jumping ahead of myself here, the new moon energy that we are in at this time. And just go with what's fit, what you're feeling, really. Just go with what you're feeling, allow yourself to feel it and to move through it, not to hold on to it, not to try and analyze it too much, and just let yourself go with that transformative process which is happening collectively for us at this time. So please take really good care of yourselves and anybody else around you who you can.